Right.
Say, I have this magic, can you hear me? Yes, yes, yes.
Yes.
I have this magic shirt for cemeteries because everything ends someplace and in the cemetery, that's most important, and been neglected, but we need to keep that going. However, the Historical Society is always involved and, oh, don't go away.
I won't go
This is,
anywhere.
This is what Historical Society loves to live on. Looks terrible, doesn't it? But it's a little bit of the website. Come on, websites, and on one of the cemeteries. And I'm not too sure where it is, but as you can tell, it's hard to manage and so forth. So the sextons took ingenious, took a board and glued it to it, so they could then stand in the cemetery in the wind and tell the people, this is where we are, and this is what you want, and your neighbors are going to be. This is some neighbors, and so you have to figure all that out, and then you would mark it off. And this is an old thing. I can't tell how old it is, but it's probably before 1900s. And I've traced it. I wrote on coincide in the back right there, so we know where it's from, and that is now going to you.
Thank you.
And this is going to you. Okay?
I need to clean my house out. Would you like to come help me?
That's not going on.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay. Okay, so, I'm gonna point it here someplace. I got one in the bag, and I got a little box, cardboard box with a pointer on it. Are we ready, Linda?
I think we're ready. Do we need the lights?
You see, I put this there for evolution of authority, and you know what it is, right? From a paw to a man, to a young man, to a lady.
Need a pointed bar, you can use it. Just have to press the little button.
Oh, okay, is that a more set?
There's nothing in
Yeah,
these
yeah,
bags.
I've got this more set, thank you.
That better?
That was better. That's good. I don't know you. What's your name?
My name is Debbie Natty and I live on the Metcalf Road.
Thank you for being here. For a long time.
I'm a retired teacher too.
From what? Oh, what?
James Dean School in Sydney.
Don't know what's going on over there now.
Congratulations.
I'm not sharing screen.
All right. If I can see where I'm going. Backwards.
Not sharing music. Right.
Okay, next one, Linda. And that's what I always start my talks with, because it's very true. When the elderly die, and library is lost, and volumes of wisdom and knowledge are gone.
That's what's
We
going
don't always believe that. So if you have old things in your house, like I did right now, don't be afraid to bring them down here. Rather than you worry about throwing them away, let them look at it. If they don't like it, they'll throw it away, and your conscience will be clear. All right, next one. Linda, next one.
Yeah, yep. Just trying to do two things at once. There we go.
Okay, Winthrop, Maine. Never knew, forgotten stuff. I've got a kind of an interesting group of materials in here that maybe you never knew, but maybe I've forgotten, but I hope some of them I knew. And I've addressed some of them with who, which, where, when, and how, which is how you find out where things are. And this is today's date. Next one. Okay, we're going to look at these events. Shift population. How the population of Winthrop has shifted over the years, for the better, for the worse, but it
I don't think
moved.
we're sharing this.
We had a terrible accident in one of our meeting houses, which was a church, with 3 people dying, and there's nothing in the newspapers about it. Hardly anything in the records about it. Just little smidgens here and there. I put all those things together, and I tried to solve it, and that's coming up a little later. We have a few facts about early Winthrop schools, but as a teacher, probably like that. I'm going to touch on some families. We'll talk a little bit about immigrants. I have one sheet on immigrants. Early years of knowledge. Where do you get most of your knowledge from? Really, it's from home, early. We'll talk about that a little bit. Basis for early education. What were the schools like? Various of interest should be. And then the cemetery book for Winthrop was decided, that must be a temporary one because this is empty. Let's try the next one. Okay, this is the oldest map of Winthrop that I could find. And it has borders, and it's basically square. This is South Pond, which is Anabesco. This is the guy who opened the mill down here.
Chandler Mill.
Yeah, Chandler Mill Pond. And the road came up from Lewiston, the old Lewiston Road, went around by the
This is what she sees.
drainage, went across the lake, right at the bottom of the hill, went up the hill on Metcalf Road, and came down and connected with a road that's going through, on the way to Augusta. And the country club is right here. And then at that time, Winthrop had one road. So yeah, I thought I'd just throw that in because we haven't seen that for forever. Next one, please. All right, population of Winthrop. Can we stay on? This is the town total population. The town changed very dramatically.
Can we put it up?
This over here is rural population, and this one is Winthrop village population. And so if you're down in the 1790s
Put it up.
and went to a town meeting, people voting were mainly rural people. And the results of the votes for town went that way. And they had ideas what they wanted for schools and for roads and for everything. They pulled it that way. Then when they have a industrial revolution right here, the village people took over and the rural people, thank you, and the rural people. So when you talk about this over here, if you're in a town meeting here, the village people dominate and the rural people begin to suffer. And that's what I mean about population shift. Same town, same people, different generations, and it moves right over. This is one of the many revolutions. If you keep going up here, we have many revolutions. Next one, please.
Bob, can
Yeah,
I ask a question?
sure.
So when it went and they voted, it was just men that voted, right? Women didn't vote.
I'm not sure, I don't know.
Before
but
20.
Generally, that was the way it was.
Okay.
Bob, I got a note going here, Bob. Is that all right?
Yeah, so far it's not.
Okay. I'm not sure about Winthrop, but I don't know that. I don't want to say one way or the other. Imagine life in Winthrop in 1825 to 1875. Town was very religious with a few problems. Very religious. What did the townspeople? Whoops, you lost me. Boop, boop, boop. I'm back.
You're fine.
Okay. Where did the people come from that lived here in the early 1800s? Well, they're mainly from Attleboro, Massachusetts. And in 1620, something happened. 1620, the Mayflower came. And they were Congregationalists, mainly. But they came over for a reason, which was freedom of religion. And that was about 3-4 generations from that. So the religious push, interest is still there. So the towns and schools are very religious, even though they're public names. We even at one time had a St. Mary's school in town. People don't know about that, but we did have a school called St. Mary's. Didn't last long. They went to a public school fairly soon. What are your thoughts of the news? The news very early, before newspapers, how did the news move around town? Any ideas?
Verbal.
What?
Yeah, this is helpful.
Word of mouth,
It would be helpful.
and the location is
I thought that's what you.
outside of church. Coming out Sunday mornings, you even see that today. Outside the churches, people gather, and things change and move around and so forth. It hasn't moved much, although we have newspapers galore. Roles of males and females in the family. Very, very separate roles. Good afternoon. When Timothy Foster arrived, this is way back, it was impossible for the man to live alone. He had to have a wife. He's in the fields cutting down trees, building a shack, but no one's cooking. And he has to hunt and fish. He has to bring that home. She does that. Okay, so they're two different roles, but they intertwine very closely. Now, there's a whole thing about Timothy Foster being here for 1 year building the house. And I really have serious doubts about that because you just can't do it. It's impossible. I've looked at, old films, old, things from the historical societies about building a log cabin without the tools. And it takes well over 1 year. As a matter of fact, it takes 1 year now. He came up in a little boat, a little canoe, got out. So he did not build I don't think he built much at all, but a lean-to. But 1 year later, he had 11 kids and a wife there. So you have to do something. All right. What were education expectations for your child? Think about when you were in school. You wanted algebra, English, and so forth, and those kinds of things. When in the earlier days, they had expectations. We're going to spend quite a bit of time on that. Did people then talk about the good old days? Yes, they did. In 1850, the town report, you still see the people, the way we used to do it. That's the way we need to go back. It hasn't changed a bit. Not a bit. So I've heard, I was involved with the schools, and you're gonna do what? Have a bus for kids? Unheard of. But
I walked to school 3 miles, both uphill both ways.
uphill both ways in the snow.
Yeah,
That's
uphill
right.
both ways.
That's right. Is that Mr. Townsend? Oh, no, that's not.
Yeah.
What were the big social issues in town? What were the big problems? Yeah, religion, because we had three churches, Baptist, Congregationalist, and Methodist. And they were all left the same audience. Congregationalists had a head start, so they did very well. But the other churches were back and forth. So we'll spend some time on that to see how that worked out. And it's still not clear because it was not in print any place except one place, and that's what I'm going to talk about. Was it important to live in or out of a district? The schools were in 10 districts. District 1, up by the cemetery, by the end of Narrows Pond Road. In town was District 4, and as we moved outside of town, the districts went up. Mount Pisgah is 9, Fellows is 10, and that's where it stopped. But those were districts, and those schools were self-running. They each have an agent, not a school superintendent, but an agent. And he or she was involved in interviewing the teachers and evaluating the teachers and printing the evaluations in the town report for everyone to see. So if you're not on the right side of the agent, you moved on. Because you could not get a second job. Okay. So you report, and then in the town, they still refer to, I live in District 1, and people knew exactly where that was. So we had these districts, and they're operated by themselves, but District 4 was downtown, and they ran the show. Did you know a family in distress in 1950? If you were there? The answer is yes. We had an almshouse that did wonderful work because we had so many poor people. 1825 up there, they did Israel shortly around the Civil War, right after the Revolutionary War was before that. And people like the Foster family, Mrs. Foster, we'll go back to Timothy Foster because I love the guy. He does so much for this town, and he had 11 kids. Like just think, the big war, the Revolutionary War came around. And her husband and 4 of her 8 sons went to war. 8 of her 8 sons went to war, and 4 never came back. That's not an easy life, and that should be recognized because they're such a good family. They give everything they had in this town. Now, in distress, I read the town reports, and it's always, in almost all of them, a little notice about what happened. And one place I saw where Mr. Jones bought a pair of boots for Mr. Smith so he could work in the garden. They never met there. They were taken care of by neighbors. And Mr. Jones didn't have any money. Smith had a little bit more, but I'll share it. But the worst thing was we auctioned off some people. That was the way that poor farms worked. If you were in the poor farm, you could work. They had a farm there. They harvested some stuff. But if you're young or old, or they weren't interested or borderline, they held an auction. And they would parade the people out, and they would bid on them. And who got the body? The high bid? The low bid. This person was, I want him for $5 a month. You mean I'm going to pay for $5? No. If you give her lower to $2 a month, I'll take it. And then the next person, no, I'll do it for $1 a month. Sold. And you went to that family, And they paid the town $1 a month for that free labor. The low bidder, unbelievable, but they did that. Did you know the tragic event? I just told you about it. The church accident. We had all kinds of terrible things happening in town. And the church accident was a big one. Next one, please. All right. Turmoil in the church, 1774 to 1833. That's 33 plus 25 years is over 50 years of turmoil in the church. And who did it hurt? The churches. They just couldn't get it together for all kinds of reasons. Sometimes it's church reasons, sometimes it's other fiscal reasons. So Pastor Thurston right there is the congregational minister, and he's on page 82, but he has no mention of the church accident. Page 82 of Stackpole. And no, there's whole report is 82, 105, and there's no mention of the church accident. Good job, Thurston, because we think of Stackpole as being the author, but he's not. Thurston wrote the church chapter, and then he puts that out in town. He's seen by other churches, may reflect on his church. He didn't want that to happen. So he could take the heat by himself. But he didn't want to share it with the church and didn't say anything. But what do you know? Oh, this first one is his book. The next one is Stackpole. He outlines it over here. And Reverend Thurston again writes the chapter on Thurston's. But this is Stackpole's book. Now he cares less. So he unloads. And he talks about the different churches, what they do, what they don't do. Somewhat critical, but always polite. Always polite. History of Kennebec County, which is a book that thick about everything that happens, has no mention of the church accident. You know, if we have 4 people get killed in any kind of an accident, any place in the state of Maine, it would be all over the places. 4 people get killed, 3 people. I keep going back and forth because we know of 3, and the 4th one came later. But anyway, 4 people died in one accident, and it was not in the papers because there were no papers. And we'll show that in a minute. So townspeople were religious and that was from their ancestors. So I went with who I went with. In 1971, we finally looked at a committee of 3 to hire preaching. Then the preachers were paid for by the taxes. Pay a tax rate and included money for the churches because it was the congregational church. They ran the business, they ran the town, and they didn't have to collect the money. And then they got paid per amount of taxes raised to the church. 1779, they raised more money for taxes to be divided by the church. And now they began to have part-time ministers, no one full-time. So we have traveling ministers. Jesse Lee is one of them from Reedfield. They came and stayed 1 week and then moved on. And sometimes for 2 or 3, 4 weeks, well, but for many weeks sometimes. Number 4, for 17 years, they didn't have a permanent pastor in town. 17 years. The church people were doing the best they could, arguing all sorts of ways, but never could solve it. And number 3, in 1782, Reverend Jewett was hired as a preacher. And they said, full-time preacher, we've got it. 1 year later, he died. So I'm telling you, see, there are a lot of church reasons, tax reasons, but also reasons beyond the control. They just couldn't hold on to that discussion. And they tried hard, I have to say. Next one, please. Number 5, 1791, the town is divided in 2 parts. Well, the church is built on way down Maranicook, where it meets the Bierce Road. That's where they're going to build a church. Because it was set off town. Because Reedfield then was part of Winthrop, right in the middle of town. Then in 1791, the town meeting said, we want to get rid of Reedfield. So they had a town meeting in Reedfield, and both towns agreed that we're going to put a line before the end of Maranicook, and this would now be Reedfield. So now the church that's being built at the corners up there is by far no longer the middle of the town. So what happens to that church? Unknown. I look at old maps, it's not even marked on there. But the other churches are. So I don't really know what happened to it. The legislation, now, if you have a problem and you have one pressure point, low attendance at these meetings, well, what happens? They didn't advertise properly. You can address that. If you put a second pressure point where we don't have money to advertise, now money's in there, more difficult to solve. If you have a third thing, the speakers are lousy, you'll never probably, it's gonna be more difficult to solve. So the more pressure points there are, the more difficult it is to solve the problem. So Winthrop could not get along, they divided, and number 6, the legislature approves the sale of the ministerial lot, that's where the church is, for $840.84. And that continued the argument for years, because they had to separate it between 3 churches. I have more purchases than you do, I want more money. Well, mine's further away, they have to travel, I want more money. Well, I have a youth, they kept going, but they could not solve it, they kept arguing back and forth. Okay, and number 7, the Congregational Society, which is the big society for financing church in the state of Maine, was formed with 90 incorporators, some not even belong to any church. And they joined to make sure it can move ahead. Keep in turmoil. Because if it's not going my way, I don't go to church. I don't want them to do it. So that lasted 6 years, number 8. Before that dissolved, that went away. 1824, the church on lot 57, well after all of this, collapses, killing 3 men in 1824. We'll talk about that quite a bit. Number 4, the 4 churches, Congregational, Friends, Methodist, Baptist. You notice I talked about Congregationalists, Methodists, and Baptists. Where are the Friends? They're there, they're active, they're super polite. They wouldn't say a bad thing about anyone, even if they had to. They were not invited and never said a word. But one time later on, they asked the member of the First Church, what do you think about the accident where 4 people died, and there were members of the other churches? And he said, unlike the Friends, serves them right. The churches had a problem. 4 churches. Next one, please. This is the Chandler Pond. This is Pierce Road. This is lot 57. And the church was probably right there about it. It shows like I'm shaking, just because I am. And you see right here, these are houses. And this is a cemetery right there, which is still there. And this is a school. There's no school right there. The school's at the bottom of the hill. Right there. It's a schoolhouse. But that's school district number 3, I believe. And they had a little community there, all sorts of things. Number 1, this is downtown, this is number 4. And number 1 is go between Narrows Pond.
It's where the boot is.
Way up there.
Narrow Pond is still.
Yeah, oh, there's a Copsey right there. So right up here. Yeah. Next one, please. Okay, every newspapers. This is part of the problem. The whole Gazette was opened in 1801. Actually, it was 1824. 1824. The Augusta Kennebec Gazette, not 1824. Kennebec Journal, 1942 rather, not there. Augusta Patriot, before. Gospel Banner, not there. Augusta Farmer, not there. Worcester Journal, not there. So all the common newspapers were not either formed or had closed down. So there's a little gap in there where there's no newspapers, and that gap is where the accident happened. The word did not get out. Now, I was looking all over the place to find anything in the paper, and I finally found Hollywood Gazette, 1814, 1827. And look, it closed at one time. So I did, same paper. I didn't notice. So I didn't know that this was there, but the accident is 1924, right there. That was broadcasted. Or in the newspapers, rather. So I kind of asked anybody, do you have a resolution for this? You know who came forward? AI. And they said, we have a resolution for you. Oh, I was all interested. Give me what you've got. And they said, this is very simple. It only took 3 minutes, 3 seconds. And they said, in a boat on the Kennebec River were 3 fishermen. And they fell overboard and they drowned. You are totally wrong. And this is right. So if you have anything with AI, be careful. All right, next one, please. Okay, down a little bit.
That's your slide. You have to make it.
All right, well,
Go home.
okay. It starts up at the Hollywood Gazette on the 12th incident of this month. gave particulars about the accident which happened at Raisin Meeting House in Winthrop. 40 or 15 men were standing in part of the frame about 26 feet from the floor. As they were about to raise the pair of rafters, the beam on which they stood gave way, and most of the men and all the timber which had not been thoroughly secured went to the floor. The men buried beneath the fragments of timber, most of them severely wounded, and one or two died, literally crushed to pieces. The whole number that fell, 37. One of them, Mr. Warren Poland, expired the next day. Mr. Warren, another that in an hour. Next day is Mr. Paul Ladd, related that lad right there, that expired the next day. 7 who were on the frame, roughly caught part of the frame and escaped unhurt. 2 leaped off, one of whom was so fortunate as to receive no injury, because that states that another person injured was supposed to be at the point of death and lives and the lives of 4 others were spared. Finally, it had been a newspaper, and what I can gather from the history books, a little bit, that's exactly what happened. So I believe that paper. And when they say newspaper men are honest and so forth, I think they are. I believe all of that. I think I need the talk. Next thing, next one. No, that's not the one. Okay. Okay, this is a slide I put together. It says up there, date of birth, place of birth, date died, place buried, family, and date marriage. And you can tell date of birth, they're all relatively young men. As a matter of fact, they're all 31, 36, 30, 39. Young men, they're all died in that thing. He was born in Rockingham, Mass, Palermo, Reedfield, Ipswich. They're all from away. They moved here recently and were given their time to the church to make it go. The church is beginning to come together, finally. In one place in the book, it said, finally we're together. And the old people of 3 generations ago are now dead. And the new young people can address the issue. So they realized there was a lot of turmoil. Oh, all right. Date of marriage. He was married 10 years ago. He was married 65 days ago. Didn't have any kids. February 18th, 6 years ago, 2 daughters and 2 sons. And 4 years ago, Margaret Hoyt. Margaret Hoyt lost her husband, David Kindle, and she also lost her brother. Whoops, the other way. Right over here is her husband, her brother. Smaller. Well, anyway, her brother is right over here, lives in Winthrop. So Margaret lost both, her husband and her brother. The reason we say 3 is because these 3, look for the little book in there that's where they put the pink and color. That's the one right there. Cool. That's good. Thank you. Okay. See, we didn't know about Daniel Kimball. I did not know about him until about a year ago, or less than that, 6 months ago. And this is a book from the United Methodist Church of Winthrop about stained glass. And historical committee members, you need to pay attention to small details. I've looked at this many times. I didn't see it until I realized what was going on inside, because I read something that led me to this page in the middle here. There was Betsy Melvin and Elizabeth Morrow page. And that, no, not one of these. Right here, the page of Nathan and Sophronia Kimball. And I went there, and it says, right in the middle part, for a lifetime, Lottie Carlson has heard the family recollections of Daniel Kimball's history. He's the one who died. As follows. He was seriously injured in the fall of the frame of the First Parish Meeting House on June 9th, 1824. And his death occurred 3 years later. So that's why we have 3 all over, but the 4th one is discovered later. But the reason I found this is because of a member of the society. This was published by Methodist Church. Now the back cover, it says Bicentennial Committee. People who published this thing says Sharon Jones, Linda Allen, Ginny, so forth, Lottie Carlson, and later on, Linda Pratt. And she mentioned something someplace that caught my ear, and I went back and got this. That's how you build a story. The smallest thing you never expect. In the stained glass brochure, we have it in the same bang and decorated the fourth person. Just like that. So you may not have what you want, but wait a while. Ask questions. It'll come. Next one. Next one. Okay. Stackpole, page 110. It is recorded that when the meeting house frame was raised in 1824, no friend was invited to the raising, and when the frame fell, 3 men lost their lives. Some persons saw the event as a judgment of the Lord. They forgot at the time the story of the Tower of Siloam. And I looked up on Google, and what Siloam is, a structure in which 18 people were killed in the basic same situation. But at least the French church went to a religious background, religious story, and explained it in a nice way. We were still not very friends, not very happy of not being there. Next one, please. Okay, this is what the church, this is the meeting house in Wayne. And it looks like this when we're trying to raise. And the board, they was right up there, and there was somewhere below it, and that board came down, and the whole thing came crashing down. I just did this a couple of days ago. I had another one, I couldn't find it. But this is a beautiful house, and look right on granite, foundation, so forth. Women on one side, men on the other. As Penny said, when the vote came, only one side voted. Next one. And it was the male side. Now, in the absence of print, the town came together, the school. The Winthropian is a publisher at Winthrop High School, published by the pupils at the end of every school term. They had 4 school terms. I don't think they did anything for summer school terms, just a few kids. But they published it with Winthropian. This is volume 2, number 1, and it talks about the death of I.W. Snow, who was a doctor in town. And Snow, the schools of Winthrop sustained a great loss because doctors and lawyers gave a lot to education. Besides money, they gave their time and they taught. So the Winthrop saw that, began to talk about local stories, and first single copies is 10 cents, but you would buy 3 for the year for 25 cents. And they did a good job. Congratulations. Next one. This one is the Winthrop winner. This is volume 1 and volume number 1. This is the very first winner, which is the Winthrop yearbook affair. So if you're looking for the date of where it all started, 1919. Published once a year by students at Winthrop High School. Scott, and then the next book in the same file. Okay, and so forth. It costs 25 cents. An editorial, and they do good work with the book. Like, and this is the book right here. Historical Society is going to get it sometime when I'm through with it. And they have the usual stuff in the front. The pictures of all the graduates, about 21, 24, something like that. Wonderful. Wonderful. Most of the students had to write an essay on the book. And that scared a lot of people away. Out of about 24 students, I think 18 or 19 did it. The others said, I don't want to do that. But, a couple of them, it was wonderful. This person, Annie Laurie Maxim, wrote hers in French. And La Marseillaise, there's no name there, written in French. And it's beautiful French. Even a lot of good things going on, even though it's 1932. But the gap in the school system between 1911, which we'll talk about, and 32, is monumental. The schools just took off after the town had their problems organized. Another thing I like about this book is on this page right here. And what they thought about doing, and I compliment them for it, is alumni of Winthrop High School. And what they did is search the alumni of the year 1900. And they saw what they were, and they wrote a little line about it. Like the second one is Addie Kalman, Mrs. Peter Talmadge, living in Somerville, Massachusetts. But that's more than people knew. And there's about 8 or 10, 1911, 1912, all the way to 1931. And as you get through, more people are alive, and the columns grow longer. Wonderful. Nice publication. I like that. Okay, next one. You can tell I'm kind of high on school. Winthrop winter is just what we just did, the next one, please. Importance of memorials. We need memorials in town to remember people. And we have some, but they're not well put together. I don't want to complain, but the job of the Historical Society is to oversee that. And I think they need a committee to do memorials. Just to recognize them, to put them in a book, so they can be found, so we don't lose them. How did you lose a memorial? It's a plaque someplace that disappears. But it doesn't have to be big. You know, we have 12 watering troughs for horses in town. They're given to the town in honor of Dr. Philibrown. They weigh over 1 ton apiece. That's 12 tons disappeared. A little plaque can disappear very easily. And you need to, it was found later on, about 50 years later. So 9 of them are back. We still can't find 3 of them. So, you need to write things down. Next. Okay. Do we have memorials for these people? Do we have a memorial for veterans?
Yeah.
Right there. The ex-veterans, do we have one in town? Yes. Say yes, please.
Yeah.
Yes. Next one. Next. And here it is at the lakeside, put up by the American Legion. Beautiful. They put it up. They bought it. They're going to maintain it. All you do is recognize it. And you've got it. Next one, please. Is there a memorial for Squire Bishop? He's the second person in town of great note.
Yes.
Do we have one? Oh, no.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
I don't know where it is.
Oh, go down. Well, the answer is yes. We have a tombstone. His Deacon Squire Bishop. But you know what? People tend to steal tombstones, especially the old ones. In Massachusetts, where his great grandfather is locked. People take them. That needs to disappear from there. Brought here, cleaned up, placed in here as a memorial, and I offered it to this committee for this place. I will pay to put a new stone in its place as a memorial. So when people go to the cemetery, they say, at least we know where he's buried. Okay, next one, please. This is Squire Bishop's house. So we do have something. But what happened to that house?
Burned down.
It burned. Next one, please. There it is. Next place, please. 2 hours later, there it is. With a fire used it as training, and they burned it down.
Metcalf Road.
I objected to that. I was the town council, and I lost the battle. But there it is. Next one, please. Do we have a messenger? Do we have a plaque for the messenger?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Where is it, please? Next one. Right there. What's the horse? We do have a place for that. It's right across the street. Right by the edge of the building, right behind the town bulletin board. Next one, please. You have for John Connor. He was in the next door building, head of the Winthrop Monmouth Green Telephone Company. Religious man, gave a lot to this town with him and his family, and was super successful. He used to walk right here to go to his church every Sunday with his family. We have a memorial for him. Linda knows. Linda?
Yeah.
Yes. Turn the page. Next one, please. Yes, we do.
Oh, it's in
And
Somerville.
they get to John
Yeah.
Connor in honor of his service, the Community Service Telephone Company, 1955, 1988, to the telephone industry since 1942, and to the community at this time. This was bought, as far as I know, by the employees of the telephone company. I recognize them.
Is that John Priscilla?
Yes.
Yeah.
Priscilla Connor and John.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
Where is that memorial?
That memorial is,
Across the parking lot.
Oh,
if you walk in Linda's office, it's right near the door. Near the door, or right on Main Street. But people don't know where it is. When I asked her, Linda, you know, she said no, right? And it's right outside your door. She walks past it every day. But she's normal. People don't, but you need to recognize it. Next one, please. Okay, Pastor Thurston. He wrote histories. He was a pastor for 25, 30 years. Congregational church, successful church. Where is his memorial? Next one,
In our
please.
church.
They don't have one.
Don't have one.
Too bad.
We have a picture of him, that kind.
You have a picture of it?
Yeah,
There's a memorial?
downstairs.
Good. Don't get it now. I
I'm
want
not
to see it. I
going
want to add it in. Marshall Hills. Marshall Hill was a very important man in the mill. They shut the mill down. He was good at numbers, good so forth, and they hired him to be the town manager for a while. And he was there and did a great job. Does he have a memorial? People don't even, probably have never heard about the name Marshall Hills.
Well, I just read his town report yesterday.
What, Mary?
I just read his town report yesterday.
Okay.
Transfer
He
station.
did a good job.
Yeah, the transfer station.
But he's here for a reason, and
That's
you'll know about it in a minute. Does he have a memorial here?
The transfer station. Yeah.
Probably not, but go next
Doesn't
one.
believe.
Yes, he does. Marshall Hill.
Oh, we spoiled his.
But this is what I mean, you guys, in the committee. Look at that thing. Marshall Hill spent years of his life in this town. The council probably said, we need a memorial. In memory of Marshall Hill, so we're gonna memorialize the dump. What the hell is that about? There are no rules. You need rules. That's an insult. And that's what I mean. There's no rules. And you don't need to go out of your way. What's the rules? And we cover the whole thing. Next one, please. Timothy Foster. Do we have a memorial in his? Remember, he's the first guy in town. He built a little thing. 11 kids came. 4 of his sons gave their life in the war. And he and his wife couldn't survive without each other. Is the memorial for him? Answer?
Yes,
Yes.
we don't want to spoil surprise.
How many were yeses?
Everybody
Yes.
raise your hand.
Go next one. Yes, there is. Near the site stood in 1765, the first house in Winthrop. It was not a house, then called Pond Town, built by Timothy Foster. And by Pond Town, it's called Pond Town because that's what Winthrop was called. And erected by the Patient Stanley chapter of the Dodge American Revolution. That's the thing. All right, next one, please. Where is it?
It's on the South Road.
This is Dr. Someone.
It's exactly what I'm saying.
This is Dr. Ciabronis's house.
Yeah.
You know where that is? You know the south road is going to Augusta? There's a red light at the corner. Turn right there, and the road goes in about 2 miles and takes up right, which is right there.
Right, Bert.
In front of his house is the memorial. Okay, but where is it? Well, you see these shrubs right here? Right at the last shrub, right there is where it is. Next. Right there is where it is. Now, somebody buys the house, I don't want the wall, backhoe comes, things going. There's no one taking care of it. As a matter of fact, no one knows it's even there.
I know what's there.
Yeah, well, write it down
I
and
took a picture.
go for it. Okay, next one, please. Timothy Foster. How about Mrs. Timothy Foster?
Oh, brother.
No, nothing there. Okay, so
That
out
is
of town,
for children.
we have memorials out of town where some in Reedfield, Leeds, Vesselball, Orono, Europa. Where's Europa? We're gonna have a memorial of Europa. I'll talk about that in a minute. We have memorials come in a variety of situations, events, places, persons, museum, objects. They have to be big, they have to be important, it has to be one of a kind, that always helps. It's something that needs to be recognized. Next one, please. There's Europa. Have you ever watched at night when the International Space Station goes by, and you see the trail and so forth, you can see it going by? Very interesting. Well, SpaceX does the same thing. But who knows about SpaceX?
Yeah.
You do. You do. What are they doing here?
Pardon?
What is SpaceX doing up there?
Well, they're transporting astronauts to the.
That's one thing they're doing. Anything else?
They've got,
They sent that car up into space.
The what?
They sent that car up into space.
Okay.
yeah.
Anything else? All right.
Internet for everybody, those,
Right there.
Yeah.
Leo's right. They're going to change the internet system. So yeah, I go to SpaceX, overflight in Winthrop, and if there is one, they'll tell me about it. And they said, you want to be notified when the next one is? I said, yes. So it shows. And my wife and I have been outside looking up at night, and they tell you right where it's going to show. You don't see anything. All of a sudden, it comes out of the shadows of the earth. Boom, and there it is. It's coming. And the satellite is there, and you can see dot, 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 space. Dot, 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 space. What's that about? He's putting satellites up there. They're going to change the telephone system around the world. He's putting up 20,000 of the thing. And he's already tried them in Ukraine, and they converse back and forth without a problem. So every person on earth is going to have access to the internet, the telephones, and the telephone towers are probably going to be diminishing. Telephones will go from here to something to there, and it's going to go across the world and then down again. SpaceX is doing that. Well, I was watching it one day, and they said, this is a real pioneering venture. We'd like to have something to commemorate some people. And I happened to be there. So I know who, Timothy Foster. So I put my name in there, and I put my son's name in there too. And a couple of days later, John, next paper, please. Next paper, please. Come on, son. Wait up. Not that one.
You didn't say.
Okay, and a few days later, I got a note from them saying that I was approved. I said, ooh, that's good. And it's called Messages in a Bottle. And, you know, it's like throw a ball in the ocean, see where it goes. Well, that's where it's going. It's going to Europa, which is one of the many moons, I think it's 11, of Jupiter. And test that. And how far is that? Well, that's 1.8 billion miles away. It won't be there until 15 years. It's so far. But it's there. The sound of radio in 1 second goes around the earth 7 times. To communicate with that thing is going to take 20 minutes. It's so far away. By 15 years from now, they're going to have computers on board. But they're going to be so old, which is what we have today, they won't be able to communicate with us. So they have a museum down there, and where they're keeping old computers and old things, so they can talk with them in 15 years because they're so far away. And they're drilling for water and all that stuff. So Timothy Foster, his grandfather was a pioneer outside of Plymouth, Massachusetts. He was not on Mayflower, it's there. Timothy Foster was the pioneer in this town. Timothy Foster, pioneer in Europa. Departure October, target arrival 2030, 6 years. Next one. Okay, you recognize that picture right downtown by the mill. Is there any place on there you can have a memorial? Must look about that. I don't know if there is or not. Well, if you look at it closely, anyone see anything? All right, I'll show it to you. Ooh, there's a little spot that is worthy of something, and this is the mill right there. See that dot? That's worthy of a memorial.
For what?
Of a memorial. To be noted. Just that dot. It doesn't need to be much, but it needs to be recognized. What happens? That's the Willen Mill. You all have ancestors who worked in the mill, probably, not here, but someplace. Well, probably not. You're all too young for that. But they're terrible places. Very, very noisy, very hot, and extremely dusty. And the dust, you can have a board put on fire, it takes a while. I think a grain of sawdust starts right away. Well, it's dust. And dust, if there's a spark, it explodes. So the fires in mills are very, very common. So they had their own fire department to go put those things out. Wow. This is Mechanics Row. This is where you park down here if you go to the doctor's office. And down on the right side, right down here, were houses and businesses. Businesses on the stream, blacksmith, all those things. And many, many houses, mainly from Franco-Americans who immigrated here. And they were close together. And the mill says, we're going to have a problem there. So they extended their lines inside and built a shelf inside there, and I've been in there. They have a water pump right there, and they put a thing out, and they built the first hydrant in town, right there. First hydrant in town. That's worth here memorial. Because it took many years for the next one to come. So when they had a big fire, and the whole thing burned down, they were active, they used the hydrant, but it got away from them, and it burned anyway. That one hydrant was just too much for that. Next one, please. Okay, this is the cover plate of the pump down there. Rotary pump, national standards, capacity 1,000 gallons per whatever it is. Can handle 4 good 118 smooth number nozzles, fire streams, full speed, 250 revolution per minute. And this was on top of that pump. And Lou Carrier saved it. Thank you, Lou. All I have in this is a picture, but he's got the plaque. Next one, please. All right. This is, if you go down Memorial Drive all the way, you get to Reed Field. Remember, Winthrop and Reed Field together. You get to Reed Field, you take a left, go down by Beaver Brook, then you go up the hill, take a right by, where your family lives there. Where is it?
Thompson Farm?
Yes, Thompson Farm. But before you get there, Thompson Farm's on the right. Is that house, Wood Farm, is that worth of a memorial?
Oh, yeah.
Well, why? Because I just admit that. You see that plaque right there? Next sign, please. There it is. The town meeting was held here on May 1790 when the voters chose to separate from Winthrop. That's where there's no. And it's on the building. If the building burns down, that goes down. Don't take it, but at least put it someplace so don't lose it. Next one, please. This is in Virginia. Tell you about that. And we took a tour of James Madison, ex-president of Madison. He had many slaves. And we had a tour of the place, the grounds, the kitchen. And the tour guide was a young lady, probably 25, 30 years old, a black lady, very knowledgeable, very good, and explained everything. We were all through. She said, I have one more thing to show you. There's a few steps away, probably 5 minutes. We went down, and there's a plaque in front of there. And she says, this is a memorial. And I said, really? That's where my grandmother and grandfather were thrown. They died, but they lost. Because slaves were not looked upon as property. They were looked upon as property, not as citizens. If you remember the cemetery presentation I did, someone said graveyard. I said, no, that's a graveyard. And the derogatory term. We have cemeteries. We have other cemetery groups where we bury people. But that is emotional. And she was almost crying when she told me that. Terrible thing to happen. The sign was there and it needs to be done. And someone has a rule for that. That's what we need to do. Next one. All right. Cattle's in Boston. This is totally different. Boston newspaper in 1950. A recent sight last week when a group of cattle were led down one of our streets from the railroad station to the slaughterhouse. They originated in Winthrop, Maine, and raised by Mr. Daly. Well, I bet they said that in Boston on a short leash, Boston cows on our street. But we must have had the same experience when they marched down from the Baylor farm to our main street, right in front, towards our railroad station, too. There's no mention of that anyplace. But you know, we did have cattle drives right in front of his building. I don't have a memorial for that, but anyway, that's where it is. Next one, please. This site, not memorialized, but something else that happened downtown that many people don't know about. This is, you've seen the big windmills to generate power. This is the blade. It's so big that people can walk in there. Now, this is a railroad track. This is Winthrop Fuel right there. This is the street, and the tracks are right here. We tried to turn that corner because it was lost. You couldn't do it. It's long. I'll tell you how long it is. It's 250 feet long. The longest trailer trucks we have on the road is 53. That thing's 250. It's 5 of those trucks hooked together. That's humongous. Next one, please. It starts from the railroad tracks, goes all the way across, over this house, over the garage, over this guy's barn. And there's a flag there. And there's a man, I don't know where he is right now, saying you can back up a little bit more, you're not hitting anything. And see this trailer, the wheels turn. And they can turn the wheels, move it sideways, make it fit, move it like that. It took them 2 hours to turn that trailer around, that blade around. That's Memorial Street. I thought I'd throw that in there. Next one, please. And there it is going up Main Street. That's a big piece of work. So it does happen. Next one, please. Now, I took this picture. I don't know if this is true or not. Maybe the first meeting held by the Winthrop Maine Historical Society in their new home. This is 2022. And I was sitting right by here and I took a picture of this. So I don't know if it's true because I wanted to memorialize that event. First one in a new home. Next one, please. Same thing from another angle. Next one, please. All right. You don't have to do anything great. You go to town office, there's a museum of Roland Lavalley's pictures on the walls. Memorial, print that down someplace. People need to know that. Next one, please. If you haven't been to the high school lately, wonderful museum for athletics. The whole wing, it's just like that, all the way down on both sides. Tell me about all the championships they've had. Some of the players. Next one, please. First one up is Dennis Clark. We all know him. All the way down. TJ Conrad, Chef Love, people who've done 2 years ago, Pam Webb. Well, more than that, 2 years ago. And they're all memorialized all the way through. People don't know that. And you have to publicize that in your book you're going to write after you get through with you. Next page. Winthrop, Bramble, David Poole and Gym. You know, David Poole and Gym is a big event. They named the gym after him. And his picture's right over here, along with Ray Condry. Next one, please. What? This is their motto. Watch your thoughts, they become words. Watch your words, they become actions. Watch your actions, become habits. Watch your habits, become character. Watch your character becomes your destiny. And they publicize that. You need to write that down someplace. Next one, please. In the library, Dorisdown Librarian. The library must have 75 plaques. People donated money all over the place. You have to look for them, they're all there. That's the cinnamon I want to show you. Next one, please. Gale. Mr. Gale was a key member of this community. Okay? He's the great grandfather of Ann Dooling, who is not here. I got this especially for her. But anyway, I can't get this. Here we go. He was road commissioner for over 40 years. He took care of the town roads when they were all dirt and snow and cleaned with oxen. And he did a great job, I'll tell you. He solved all kinds of problems. So I have a few little things here. One of the best known and most prominent citizens of Winthrop, Kennebec County was born in town in 1832. He is the third generation of Gales in Winthrop. His grandfather goes this way, goes that way. At the bottom it says that in 1869 he became the road commissioner, an office he held ever since, which is over 40 years. Now, not only is he well recognized for what he did, but you know, he did plow the roads. They didn't have plows, they have trucks. He rolled them. And all the roads we had were rolled. She had a crew of people with oxen and a roller. And they had to do that. The guy's wonderful. But on top of that, he had a hobby. The Winthrop didn't have any water. He brought water to Winthrop. He lives, if you go down here to the library, take a left and go to railroad tracks. Right across railroad tracks is Galeville. Gale. Now, he didn't live there. He lived on this side, but his family lived there. Go halfway up the hill, and Winthrop is full of water. Both sides of town, water's filling the basements all the time. You have drains and all those kinds of things. What he did is the opposite. He made a great big reservoir and collected the water halfway up the hill. Then the water through gravity, he ran a pipe under the railroad tracks and gave this town water, which he never had on his own. Wow, that makes a difference. This guy's quite a guy. He was for 40 years or more road commissioner, except 2 years in the middle where he had help. He had 3 prominent townspeople on the committee. And I said, they must be dissatisfied with it. Not the case. 2 years later, they now voted to have hydrants go from there around town. He did all the hydrants. We talked about one hydrant. He put up, I think it was 12 hydrants in one shot. And he pumped some water from the thing, but from his reservoir. No cost to the town. He needs to be recognized. Next slide, please. The old-fashioned pipes were wood, and that's what he used. Okay? And when they did work a few years ago on Main Street, water company rescued some of those. This is not one of them. I got this in the museum because it was cleaned up. But there's a piece of wood, and they drill a hole all the way down. And then, like a pencil, they sharpen the next one, put it in there, and put a steel band around here, and tighten it tight. Coat the thing with tar, whatever you want, and drop it in the hole. The water pressure on Main Street about 5 years ago when they changed the pipe, pipes were 100 years old. It was still looking
Wow.
Smart guy. Next one, please. Oh, I'm running out of time.
Yep.
It's 7 o'clock. Okay, refill, I talked about that. Please have some of our things in it, memorials. Next one, please. Let me go a little faster. We have Mr. Hutchins was the principal of Pole Academy, 1857, 1860, I think it's one. And he went for the Civil War. And he was much loved. So the student in front of the Congo Church was now on Main Street up above here, up the grade school on the left side, planted a tree, this elm, and it says, from whom this elm was planted for him, and they put the plaque in front of it. 25 years later, they came back for his 45th reunion. The elm was gone. Plaque's gone too. So where is the plaque? No one took care of it. I looked for that plaque probably for 10 years, but I found it. It's in, Scott, give me the stick, please, right there. It's in,
In front of all these people?
right there. There's just a tape right here, and from here to here is the size of that. And from the tape to the tip of that is the width of that plaque. So it's not light. And thank you. And they took it, and the town, it was moved in front of Congregational Church, but they said, we don't have room for it. What are we gonna do with it? Someone from Leeds says, we'll take it. Because Mr. Hutchins was born in Leeds. So now I went to Leeds looking, there he was. Okay, next one, please. You never see out of town, you never see a Maine, I don't know. It's got a whole building, Holmes Hall. Holmes from Winthrop. Inside the building is a picture. Who from Winthrop. Coburn Classical Institute. You know, that's a big, anyone know Coburn Classical Institute? It's a great big school outside of Waterville, outside of
Oak Grove, Coburn.
it's a basketball outside of Waterville.
Sophie
Yeah.
worked there.
Okay, next slide, watch. That's the school right
Yeah.
there. And it's now the police academy, the same name.
Sophie.
Okay, and it's called the Old Grove Cemetery and Bailey Institute. Bailey who gave on the library. He gave money
Sophie
to
did.
all this thing.
Sophia did.
Sophia was involved,
No, it was her.
but there's a road right here, and there's a chapel. It's called Sophia Bailey Chapel. All right, so Mr. and Mrs. did that. They did a lot. Let's go back one, please. I just want to show that to you. Classical Bowdoin College, I don't know, because a lot of people here went to Bowdoin College. There's a great big plaque in the hallway. It's near the ceiling. Couldn't read it, so I don't know. Gallatin, Texas. Grandson of Timothy Foster is Timothy. No, his name is Timothy Gallon Foster. Hold on, got him right here. No, that's Europa. I don't want Europa. This is right here. His name is Albert Gallatin Foster. And he left town and went to Texas as a pioneer. And the history book says he did the same thing his father did. Created the town, built the town, and named the town is named after him, Gallatin, Texas. And they have a whole thing on him from a book called First Families of Texas, where they're recognized. And he's recognized, it's all spelled out here, what he did, what he didn't do, so forth. And I went to the town office website, and you know what? It's not true. Not true. So you need to be careful. But he was there, and the town is called Gallatin. And there's a plaque in the front of the town office by what I said the name was, the Albert Gallatin, another name. And the town office exploited it and put up a plaque that's correct. But the First Families of Texas, and Google has him as father of that town. Not true. So it sounds good. And it all be true. So I'd ask you to do that. In Space Europa. All right, two more, please. Way down in the next one.
Where did Bailey's get their money for their wealth?
Oh, the oil factory.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
The what?
Oil
Well,
frost
And
factories.
Hannah was
Yeah,
independently
right down here,
wealthy.
Bill,
as
and they
was-
started in East Winthrop. Immigration seat 1920. I
Moses
started to
White.
say, where did these people come from to live here? So I went through the 1920 census and I tried to find where the people came from. Next slide. And hit, whoop, back one. Okay. So this, census forms are wonderful, but you have to realize it could be a guy standing outside with a piece of paper writing down answers. Meanwhile, she's preparing the supper for 6 kids, and the husband's coming through the door. So thugs is going to give here, and it's useless to stay here. Okay? But I went through and I counted. From England, there were 12 people, and the first year I could recognize was 1853. Names were Godfrey Knight, Heinhall, and so forth. Heinhall, who's that, Leon?
It's,
Van Taylor.
Taylor's father.
Van Taylor's father and Knight.
Tiny.
Heine, yeah. Father, right there. In Scotland, there was one, McElroy, started the mill. And then in Canada, 87, came in to work in the mill. Bridget Nelson, Francis Obey, 1882. And the first one is 1964. Gilbert Dyer, Oberlin, Ratty Sisters, 1878. John Du Bois, but a lot of people knew the Ratty Sisters, and they were a long time. They lived, Sam's not here, but they lived in his house. Sweden, 3 people, Nelson, so forth. Germany, Heinhall. She married him later on.
Nellie.
Nellie, that's right. Australia, 1, this name. Ireland, 1, this name. Italy, Abelli, and they're the ones who live right here, who own the food store right downtown. Helen, and that's Carlo Kempton's family. All right, next one, please. So you can get on. Now, why did they come here? What happens? Well, I don't have access to Ellis Island too far, but also you need to realize that during those days, ships arrived from Europe all the time, but they didn't always go to Ellis Island. They stopped in Bar Harbor and Booth Bay, Wisconsin, and Portland. The people got off, just like the Greyhound bus. Off they went. But in the common stops, they had recruiters. And this is from the Ellis Island of Quebec, an island, middle of a river, and the people got off the ship and they were faced to clean up, so forth, to live here. But look at this. British boys learned how to own your farm in Canada. I mean, this guy's probably has 0 to arrive with. Now they want to own a farm. Well, that can get my interest in now. They do farm work and so forth. Decide on Canada now. Good wages, farms to buy, and you can own your own. And they have a recruiter. Go visit him. He'll tell you all about it. That's where they went. Next one, please. Canada. Healthy climate. 3 schools. 160-acre farms for free. This is a recruiter. You go there. He'll set you up. My great-grandfather came from France. He was recruited by a doctor who bought a lot of land in Quebec, dividing it up. Wants to make money. And they go. That's the name of the game. Next one, please. This is Canadian Pacific Railroad. Wanted girls and women used to household work for a short position with good wages in Canada. Meet and have a talk with the recruiter. They were recruited. Some said, no, I'm all set. That's fine. But they were recruited. Next one, please. This one, look one from the bill. But this was the base mill in Lewiston. Wanted 120 girls and boys. Owing to the inability of mills and the inability of mills to supply the government with tape cloth during the war. A recruiter. See me, you can get jobs. And they paid him next to 0. My aunts were some of those people. And they worked all the time, 6 days a week. I could tell you that my mother was married on a Monday morning because everybody else said they worked. They were married at 6 a.m. They had to go to work at 7.
Jeez.
They worked in the mill. Next one, please. Early schools. Here we go. Different topic. We had churches, home, doctors at home, and ministers. They all had something at home to teach. They taught the religion churches. The doctors went that way. The ministers went that way. Interested people went their way. They did the best. But the schools are so disorganized, really, that they did the best they could. They started education in town. Private home was Mr. Fairbanks, Gideon Lander, right across there. Philibert family, Stevens. They all Have people in their houses to teach. All right, based on religion, with deportment, based on religion, because they're very religious, deportment and punctuality is the thrust. If you behaved and were there on time, you're in. Before 4 levels of education, grades 4, grades 8, high school, and their students to be fit for college. Students down here are not fit for college. That means we prepare them for college. We don't do that. We teach them to work on the farm. Okay, grade 4. Why is that important? Because at grade 4 was the legal age where girls could get out of school. They were then sitting on 5 years for this at 9 years old. Go home, have your father, your mother teach you how to be a housewife, because the legal marriage age for girls is 12. Get a head start on it, but the school responded to the need. That is impossible to realize, but that's what it was. Grade 8. Why is that important? Well, the boys can leave school at grade 8. So grade 8 and 5 years before that is 13 years old. So at 13 years old, they can leave, go work with the father, and will teach you what to do for the rest of your life. So this is how they passed down, but they didn't move off the farm much. Unless you were a doctor, minister, a Fairbanks, or someone like that. But other than that, you're stuck right there. We're in a high school that's described as being more of the same. And then if the student wanted to go to college, they had to go to Kent Hill, Monmouth Academy, or some other place, because that's where they fit the kids to go to school. Winthrop Town Report, 1872. Wait, Scott, the green book right there, please.
Which green book?
The bottom of the pile.
Big.
No, the pile.
Oh,
Yeah,
that green.
that green book. Okay, let's see if I can find 1872 in here. Upside, this one said upside down. Okay, this is 18, right here. And I won't spend too much time on it, but it'll say, don't worry about it. High school. This school has never had an independent existence, but has been sent for 1 or 2 terms. Has been sent, for 1 or 2 terms a year to Toll Academy. We started a little academy in town, Toll Academy, and people went there. That was good. In 1884, way down here is, I didn't want the book open again. There's a chapter, a little paragraph about Mr. Gale. I will talk to him about again, but how they find anything about Mr. Gale, because he's not in a position to be argued with. Just did his work, was quiet. If you're a selectman, you're in the town report. You did this. But he was expected to do that for 4 days. He did it. I don't need to print it because he's doing it until he did the waterworks. And it reads, much against our will, they had 3 people help him that year of note, doctors, well-educated people, because and I saw that. I said, he must be doing a poor job because of a committee. And 2 years later, the committee was gone, he was still there. So something happened. Well, the 3 people who were there helped them organize the waterworks. And they couldn't have done it by himself. So much against our will, the 3 people who started, just this is not going to happen. But it happened. At your earnest request, we took the task of constructing the waterworks according to a plan submitted to town at last annual meeting. We were able to borrow $3,000. It goes down, and the committee of CA wing, chief of fire department, you need hydrants, Levi Jones on the board of banks and so forth, good choice, and Mr. McElroy, who's head of the mill. So he had a good committee. They all wanted water, so they made it happen. And it goes on, and it goes way at the end, because we're able to report that the plan originally adopted has been fully carried out, and in the addition, a new rotary pump was placed in the cellar of the woolen mill. Exactly what we had. Perfect. Love it. Next one, please. Oh, yes. And then the schools were supplemented by lyceums and outside education thing. There were 22 of these lyceums going on. Some were agricultural, some were labor, some were veterans, some were housewives. But the one I really want to talk to you about is this one right here, Angelo Chautauqua Circle. I'll tell you, after we read that, I would invite all the women in this room to join it because it's wonderful. It meets every Tuesday evenings in the Winthrop budget. This is printed in the Winthrop budget on April 24th, volume 6, number 17. The following will illustrate how elite some of these meetings were. The reason they're women because they were of class and they went to Butler Private School in those places. And the roll call was answered by quotations from Shakespeare. You said, Linda, you here? Quotation from Shakespeare for an answer. That takes some preparation. A paper on moral philosophy from Chicago was read on the state of morning, as an original essay on Shakespeare was given in this Frankie word. The next meeting on May 4th, the roll call will be answered by quotation from Tennyson. Good luck, ladies. Good luck, okay? The reports include topics such as political ideologies, the issues, civil rights, international relations, economy. They addressed everything in the town. And you know what? They were the women. You know, I saw at the front marches towards power, the women's shoes. The power was now educated. Things happened. Things happened, yeah. The next one, please. Okay, Dr. Pelletier Benson. Go to the next one, please, for a minute. This is the Methodist Church. This is where the school was built, where Circle K is now. Dr. Benson lived right here, and he owned all of this land. He sold it to the town to do different things with it. Okay, but go back, please, one. Okay, Benson, in consideration of everything, to school district number 4, that's downtown, and he's going to sell him some land, fallen piece of land, situated in Winthrop, budded and boundless as follows: to wit, all the land on the brick schoolhouse now stands, which belongs to me. He even built a schoolhouse. Good citizens and brick. There are only 2 brick schoolhouses in the whole town. They did a good job. 2 down, please. All right. Look at what they were doing in our schools. I'm getting close to the end, be glad. Volvers is a list of responsibilities, and it's an educational institution that measures education progress. In 1900 to 1910, the issues in towns were health, hygiene, immunization, visual, dental, and out of these and many problems, they elected 5 and these things here. So the towns and the government saw that they were doing the right thing, they're responding to the people. The next one, right here, 10 to 40, that's 30 years. Child labor, the ads for child go work in the mills, that's going to start. Compulsory education, then they go to school until too late. Vocational education. Finally, they were educated to farm work and so forth. PE was expanded. Transportation, 3 new programs were put in place. 1940 was the war. War, men are gone. Tend to be feminine courses. Business ed, music, art, half-day kindergarten. They responded to the town. They swung that way. Not the town, but the United States. It's a national survey. 1850, baby boomers. The kids are back. We're going to have kids. A lot of schools open. Science and math. These GIs left Winthrop, or left where they lived, traveled the world. Saw their opportunities out there. Science and math. They ran guns. They ran with math. You need improvements. Then they did. Expanding that. Foreign languages. Foreign countries. They did a lot of that. Next one, please. 1960, economy's roaring. Testing. Advanced placement. Adult Ed. Head Start. 7 of those were put in place. They responded. 1970s. Families began to break up. Vietnam's there on terrible times. So they dealt with one-parent students. Addiction comes into play. Women's studies is growing. 50 new topics. 1980s, global competition economics, computers, sex awareness. Year 2000, we're in 2005. This is 10 years ago. In the first 5 years, changes in complexity of society, increased literacy, global workforce, electronics. They're moving to where it is. Unfortunately, they have a hard time anticipating. They respond to the need, but at least they're doing the right thing. We're going the right way. All right? At the bottom, they say, all without adding a single minute to school calendar in over 80 years. And the teachers feel that, right? Right. Plus salaries have not increased to match the economy. So they wanted to go part way, they wanted, but let's see what happens. Next one, please. Remember this? Industrial population, rural population, right there. We have each one of those. This was a industry revolution. We have revolutions going on and on and on and on, all over the place. Next one, please. 3-generation families. The big families in town did a lot of work, stayed here for 3 generations. As the Philibon arrived, he had kids, they succeeded, their kids moved away. My family, 3 generations. Me, my kids, the grandkids, believe me, just one or two, well, one right now. Butler, and Butler, go to, can you go to Who's Magic? And it's 43822. Try that.
Give me a second.
I'm also black, don't worry. My wife is saying, I'm right behind. If you want to leave, feel free. Okay, no,
We just have
All
to
right.
find a place to put the number.
it's all right.
It.
Then I
We're
have
gonna
something about
share
the Cobb
different-
family, which shows that the Cobbs is the biggest family in town. More Cobb names than anything else. And they were here early, and they were here farming, and they branched out. Wonderful. Flurry families, after the French arrived, they were similar. They have a lot of flurries. Lacroix family. I can't say that in English. Lacroix. Are they from France or from Germany, from Canada? Neither one. He's from the West Indies. And why? How did they get here? He married a Cobb. Hold them to Winthrop. Part of the problem. But he's from the West Indies. There's a story. No matter where you go, there's a story. The story here is his father owned a plantation with Negroes, and they raised sugar. Therefore, they were doing rum. Therefore, they had an uprising of the Negro population. He had to get off of his life. So he moved to the United States in Boston, I think it was, met a Cobb, got married. After the uprising was done, he went back. And there we are. But and we have quite a few. Lacroix married into Cobb, Lavalle's, number of families, quite good. And
Bob,
then
what are those 5-digit numbers?
there's a number for my number of
That's
the
for
person in my
the-
Wisconsin,
but we
it's my
can't-
genealogy program.
Okay.
We
Okay,
can't get there, Bob.
what?
We can't get there.
You can't get it from, okay? So I have a lot of names in there.
Ah.
So if I go to Cobb,
It's a really good
it's
program.
500. So I assign it, the program assigns a number to each one of them.
Ah.
So the one I want is, where is it? 43550. By the way, I have 51,000 names in my computer that I put in one at a time over 40 years. Okay, so I had to do that. Delano is an interesting bird too. He's, I look at his history, it could be Delanois French, or Delanois Portuguese or Spanish. But he was English. He lived on the street right behind us. He was a musician,
So you're gonna lose.
good history, so forth. Okay, there you go.
Oh, you found it.
But now I forgot the number.
It's 4-3 something.
We're also not sharing.
4-3-5,
435, what?
so.
450, okay, go back to Bruce Magic, right here,
And we're trying to share it with people online.
okay, okay, and go, no, go to file, and go to, people. Okay, and go to here, put the number. 550, if it's not, they'll let us know, and push right there, Susan Cobb, and there she is, with her parents,
Good, Jane.
grandparents, and so forth, it goes the way up, can you get rid of this thing? Okay, and it goes all the way up. So what I can do, see, the blue dot means I'm already connected with Salt Lake City genealogy program. So I can go there and get that stuff, bring it back, and it works very well. So change this to a 6. Bring it down 6. Go up here, record, click on that, and now click on this. Right here. Yeah, and there they are. Nathan Cobb, Mary Stanley, and they're all down below. So look, they're from Reading, Mass, and move the elevator slowly, Linda, slowly down. Okay, Winthrop, a little bit faster, Winthrop,
A little bit.
all cars, Winthrop, walk faster. Winthrop, faster.
Where's Jenny? We gotta find Jenny.
If you tell me, if you meet Joe Jones in the street, you talk about the Cobb, you're in trouble. Because the word will get back, you're only halfway.
Halfway.
Okay. The most, and so I left that family, but you see, I was, stop right there, stop right there. You see, these are the kids. So since it happened to be like what do you know? And like what, and then their kids are all Winthrop, but I don't have enough time to put them all in. They're all in there, all the way down to the bottom.
And you have two
Okay.
in the room.
And where it stops, look, Francis Hoyt,
Where's Jenny on this list?
where did you hear? Where did Francis
Probably
Hoyt?
not in
He
there.
died in the church accident.
Yes, he did.
He's in the tree.
It's because
Okay,
I didn't
beautiful.
go Winthrop until 2000.
Okay, let's go back to original thing.
Well, your mom should be there. Where to?
Let's
Yeah,
go
your
back
mom
to
should be there somewhere.
minimize it. If you can find it. Right there.
What are we looking for?
Okay. And go to it.
You want the
You
slideshow
don't
again?
wanna go here. Or you wanna go, yeah,
Going back to the
that
slideshow?
right there. And she'll go right to it if you remember this well. No, it doesn't. Start from here, or you're zipping right down.
It was
Okay, we're about
71.
further. Right near the end, further. Down.
Slideshow.
Whoop,
Let's do this. There we go.
families break, so forth, further.
There we
Okay. McCoy, I have that. Gale, I have that. Cobb, I just did. Flurry just did. Butler, I'll go 4, 3, 2, 2, if you can.
Well, it's probably time to stop.
Yeah.
Let's do, okay, next one.
So we
I must be
whiz-
about out.
We need to whiz through these slides.
Yeah, I am done.